Well, here we are.
Thanks for coming on the podcast.
It's my podcast too.
Thanks for coming on our podcast.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
thanks for working hard today.
Oh, we've been hard at work.
Thanks for being here.
Cheers.
So, all right, interesting times, huh? Interesting world.
Interesting. Well, that's like reminds me of going through the pandemic and everyone's saying, "Oh, these are unprecedented times," or "in these hard times."
Yeah. Well, may you be cursed to live in interesting times. Here we are.
Yeah, it's like, I'm tired of living through historical events. Well, that's too damn bad.
Well, guess what, Bucky? You are on the ride that we are a-coasting. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Every generation has one or two things that we can look back on and be like, that was nuts. I can't believe, you had like the Great Depression, World War I, World War II. It's like nice and segued. So every group of people feels like they're a part of what the heck is going on. And then
it unifies us.
And then you get to our modern age, and every week is like, what the hell is going on? So,
yeah, it's like there's always crazy shit happening. But it depends, one, either how close to home it is, or just how much you're personally invested.
Yeah, or willing to spend the time to look into.
Yeah. I think now people are so up in arms because the one thing that unifies us all in a struggle is money. And as soon as that just becomes the like revolving door for issues, everyone's going to be fucking upset about it.
Yeah.
Except for the people who have a lot of money.
Or have a lot of money. Or are so removed from that ecosystem that they're like, I don't know, not hunter-gatherers, like bartering systems.
Yeah, the barter system.
Yeah.
Should bring that back.
Yes, bring back the bartering system. Well, think about it too, like, when you look at megalithic structures, like, think of, just a well-known one, like the pyramids of Egypt. Like, some dude was just incredibly rich, incredibly powerful, the kinds of wealthy and power that we don't understand today.
And bored.
And they're like, you know what? That's a big old desert. That's an eyesore. Let's put a giant sphinx right here.
It's missing something. Let's put giant structures in there for a reason.
Why were the pyramids invented? It's because some bored Egyptian pharaoh saw the mountains one time and came back to his home and was like, guys, listen, we thought that our sand dunes were the shit. I was in Tibet the other day. They got mountains higher than the clouds. We should build one of those.
We should build a mountain, but it should be very sharp.
Yeah, pointed, peaked, if you will.
What did they say was at the top? Was it
gold?
Gold?
Yeah. Gold cap.
When was that not there?
After people took it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It's kind of like it wasn't.
There's just a big triangle of gold up there. I want some.
I want some of that. And on top of that, the gold is a lot softer than the marble capstones that were placed on the top. And so they couldn't use their like blunted copper chisels to get the marble, but sneak your way up to the top and you can use that to get into the gold.
And then there's also dead people in it or under it.
Allegedly. Yeah. I mean,
Didn't the pyramids like line up with some constellations or something?
I think so. I think so. I think it's Sirius, but it might be. There's something in my head that's starting with an O. Is there a constellation with an O?
Was it Osiris or
Orion?
Orion, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's Orion.
Orion and his belt. Oh, by the way, for the people at home, we're just talking about random shit.
Yeah.
Don't
Orion.
Don't expect the point.
Well, the point is the top of the pyramid before it got stolen. Okay.
I wonder how long it was pointy. I wonder how pointy it was.
I don't know. Maybe was it like monomolecular point, like a single atom of gold?
They had that technology back then.
We have the technology. We could rebuild it.
Actually, since we're talking about pyramids, I don't have as much knowledge on them, but what were all the conspiracy theories? Was like, it had to be aliens because you can't cut that perfectly of a cube, but then there's people like, no, you can, and this is how they did it.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I don't know. It depends on what we're talking about. And
well, didn't they use like
when.
Like metal thread, or they used
So, well,
they were just
kind of.
grinding it with other types of minerals or something.
Yeah, so they used, I want to say, copper bars with sand to create kind of like a poor man's sandpaper effect, and use that to kind of like grind away all the material that they didn't want. Kind of like if you had a block of stone. Remember in SpongeBob when? Yeah, exactly. You have a SpongeBob with, and he's just like, "No, you got to beat the stone." Yeah, and so you could kind of do that, really, really, really slowly by just grinding it out, right?
I think people underestimate the amount of free time back then.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
the amount of slave labor.
It's
Guess what you're going to be doing for the next 8 months?
Yeah, there's some
This.
contention about it being slaves. Like slaves, how we understand it, weren't necessarily slaves how they understood it, and how like you could be you could be a slave but still own land because it's closer to like indentured servitude.
I was going to say they're closer to indentured servitude.
Yeah, so but you know that is to say, you know, there were probably people that were building for hours every day, all day long, forever because that's what they had to do.
Yeah, I mean, back in those days, a lot of slaves were not POWs per se, but just like, we won the war, I'm taking you home and you're going to be my slave.
Maybe, yeah.
And they're like, well, I don't want to
not-
die, so I guess.
I'm not an expert, I don't know, but that's that would suck. Like, hey, I know we just slaughtered your whole people, but like, can you want to come work on some stone monoliths for us?
No, takes out sword. Are you sure?
you
Well,
sure? Are you sure about that?
Yeah, why not?
Are you sure?
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, but there's also like they've got, you know, pictures or drawings or stuff of them like throwing down different types of liquids onto the sand with different sleds to drag it over the sand. So like that's fine. That's one way they think it could have happened. You have like the fringe theories of like acoustic manipulations or using sound to soften the material so that so like, you know, before it was as hard as like sandstone, and sandstone's actually pretty soft, but marble, then you use your sound to give it a nice warm sound bath, loosen up all those crystalline structures.
Play some smooth jazz for it.
You like jazz. And then, you know, once it's in that kind of like liquefied state, which you know, you could see something similar happen with Earth and earthquakes, and how it just shakes, and then it was before solid, now it acts more like liquid.
Like oobleck.
Oobleck, exactly, yeah. Or like aerated sand. If you pump air underneath sand,
Yeah.
it just becomes like water.
I feel like I saw some YouTuber like make a sand bath by
Yeah.
just like pushing air in it.
Yep.
That must be a unique experience. Because it
Probably,
has to feel like water, but also sand.
Well, if you go far enough down, I imagine that you can think of water as sand, and you can think of sand as water at certain levels. So, I mean, obviously not
Yeah.
at all levels, but within certain, you know, certain perspectives.
I'm sure it doesn't just because the sand is like flowing enough, but like my mind goes to, yeah, a bath of sandpaper. It's just the more you move, the more it sands your skin. I don't think that's how it works, but
It depends on how much air is getting blasted, because sandblasting
None.
is a thing. None, no air, no sand.
there is like sandblasting booths where you're just shooting sand.
We're just gonna get rid of your arm real quick, and you're just gonna have raw bone. What? All right.
I don't love this tattoo. Can you get rid of all the 3 top layers of tissue for me?
Oh, Jesus, yeah. So anyway, to pull back into pyramids or whatever, I don't think that he had sandblasters, but you know, water and then pulling it over. The real question though is how do they lift these things? Because we're talking like, you know, 500-ton blocks of granite and that are lifted, you know, 200-300 feet.
Just make a hoist, probably. Well,
Yeah. Out of what
how?
materials?
Well, rope comes from hemp or something.
What rope is strong enough to lift 500 tons?
You gotta ask the ancient Egyptians.
How many pulley systems do we need to leverage all that weight? You know, we're talking. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible. But
Yeah, I
saying
mean, I
it's-
have no fucking clue.
Yeah,
But
me
if you
neither.
look, I think if you throw enough bodies at something, you'll get it done.
you'll get it done. But like, if you throw, yeah, but it. I mean, how much leverage do you need to lift it? How much leverage then do you need to lift it another 5 feet?
None if you have a spaceship with a tractor beam.
Well, shit, you got me there, bucko.
We were
None if you have a spaceship with a tractor beam.
we were talking about this before, where there's issues that people, being humans,
Yeah.
want to like have really cool answers to. It's like,
Yeah.
how did they move those stones? Aliens! Wow, that'd be so cool. It's probably a lot less exciting.
Yeah.
Probably involves trigonometry and fucking, I don't know.
These yeah, like the math people from that age were like over here using an abacus to oh, it's a half degree north more in order for you to lift it up, and
Are there any like artifacts that explain any type of the like building methods?
yeah, I mean, kind of. We have
I mean, there must not be because
well,
people are still wondering.
part of it is like they didn't write anything down, so if there was something like an instruction manual, it's lost to time. Like that's just gonna happen.
Yeah, especially if it's made out of paper or something.
1,000 years ago, yeah.
That's why like we can still see all like the Neanderthal drawings because
caves,
they're
yeah,
in caves, not a lot of erosion, and they're paint.
Yeah,
Is it paint?
I think
Or
so.
oh, some are like carved
Well,
probably.
they're like dyes, so like it's like the acid of the paint that kind of like stains the stone.
Gotcha. And it's not exposed to a lot of elements.
Typically, yeah. But even when it is, it's they do survive for like an abnormally long time.
Yeah.
That might change because like there's more acid in our water now, thanks to pollution or whatever.
Now that I think about it, I feel like all the things that, you know, have been made in the late 20th, you know, into the 21st century,
Yep.
it's not going to last
Yeah.
like, for example, like ancient Greece. Because I think, if I'm not incorrect, a lot of the structures from ancient Greece are still standing because they had that, I think they call it like Greek concrete or something.
There was a bacteria that was part of the constrate, whatever, the part of the material that they used to build like their concrete or whatever, that gets reactivated with water, I want to say, and so basically allows it to repair any internal damages.
As it rains and stuff.
Yeah, just kind of in the same way that like coral reefs are like living structures.
Yeah.
I was reading a paper the other day about them wanting to put something similar to that in space to grow satellite systems in orbit. Because that way you would only need to like, and again, this is abstracted, so, but you'd only need to like take up the seed of the station, and then you would just have to give it enough time and like food, I guess. So like, think of something like a tree that can grow in space that gets its power from the sun, and creates like some type of byproduct, such as water. So I don't know. I don't really know how any of this would work, but anyway, as a result of like the structure of the seed, the entire thing grows out, like growing a crystal or a rock or
Yeah.
plant.
Like, what do we have like that now? I mean, a lot of
lot of stuff,
a lot of
actually.
tax dollars go to like maintenance, like roads and shit like that.
Well, that's kind of a different conversation, because that's like the public sector, like that's your construction, that's your infrastructure and all that stuff. And our society really isn't designed to look ahead the same way that other societies are.
I feel like it. I mean, to kind of go on a tangent, I feel like you throw capitalism in there, because like if you look at old, like I got old machinery up in the shop, like I don't know, an 80-year-old standing drill,
Yeah.
and like, you know, you get a car. Some people are driving, you know, cars from the 1930s.
Buy it once, use it forever.
Yeah, but because, at the risk of sounding silly, because of capitalism, they make shit that's going to fall apart, so you have to buy new stuff.
I think instead of saying capitalism, if you said consumerism, that would be way closer to the mark.
Yeah, true.
Like-
But don't those kind of go hand in hand? Don't you need consumers?
Yeah, but like you need consumers for capitalism to work, but you don't necessarily need
Capitalism for people to consume stuff?
Correct. Yeah, is and I might be totally off base there, but that's my understanding of it. So it is what it is. But it's interesting too, because that touches on kind of kind of like how people, how kind of how we're orienting our societies, where, and again, my opinion, but kind of like how we organize our societies, where the we were talking about this a little bit before the camera came on, was like how things that we think are important and things that we care a ton about only really matter to us within that cultural context. The moment that we step outside of that cultural context, it's like, what are we arguing about? Like what does what does like an Aboriginal native give a crap about whether or not you have to wear a suit and tie in Congress, right? Like they've got problems that are, I need to eat, I need to drink, I need to not get eaten by the polar bears that actively hunt people, right? Like if you're trying to go up to them and be like, you have to care about the illegal immigrants coming into our country, and they're like, I actually have to care about not being food for that white beast sneaking up behind us that you're too busy worried about problems that aren't real, that allows the predator to catch up to you. And you play that out as a country, and all of a sudden you're like, America, you're all bickering about nothing, while these foreign powers just creep closer and closer and closer.
Yeah. I mean, going with the whole Aboriginal thing, I saw recently where like somebody was basically just hanging out with, I don't know if it was like, I think it was Aboriginal tribes in Australia or something.
Okay.
Regardless, they're like, hey, do you want to come back to America? Like, I think they were trying to like, maybe it was like a modeling thing. It's like, oh, you sure you want to come back and like, give you a job there? And they're like, isn't that the place where people like jump off of buildings because they can't handle living? Like, sometimes like, hard pass. I'll stay here.
Yeah.
It's like they can't comprehend how someone would want to end their life because all they try to do is survive, basically, just live, hunt and gather and, raise your kids. And and then it's like, oh, my job is so hard and difficult and I'm not happy in my marriage and I'm going to...
Well, yeah.
Whee!
Yeah, I mean, we start... man, that's an interesting perspective. You have like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where it's like you don't care about the next layer until your current layer is satisfied, and we're so far up that hierarchy where we're attributing, food, water, shelter, family, friends, whatever, intellectual pursuits, creativity, yada yada yada. So we're at we're up here at like individual identity levels that are as emotionally intense as not having enough food and not having enough water, because
that becomes like the new
this becomes the normative baseline. Yeah. And so because everything below this threshold is it's internalized as like normal. Like there is no scarcity in these levels. There is, but for 80% of the people, Kitty wants to complain. But for 80% of the people, like they're experiencing identity level threats in the same way that they experience existential level threats.
Yeah.
And their psychology isn't wired to understand that these are different tiers. They only understand the thresholding within the tier that they're in.
And the crazy thing with that, because we were using like the example of like Aboriginal, for lack of a better term, like more primitive.
Yeah. But primitive again,
structures
as defined by who?
Exactly.
Like
compared to us, for example. But then you just take the culture of America, which is you can't really reduce it to one culture. I don't think she's in frame. Either way.
Just the tail.
But you can take just the states.
Yeah.
And that like hierarchy of needs is different from, we're in Connecticut, so take New Haven. You could be on one street. Let me get her. Yeah. Get away from the camera, you.
Get out of the cat.
Come here. Look go the opposite end of the table. Come here. She's like, wait, but I want to be on the camera too.
I want to understand what the noise is doing. Hello.
Say hi.
Hello.
Say hi, punk. all right, get out of here, scamp.
Skedaddle. Skadoodle.
But, using New Haven as an example, you have Yale on one street. You go to another street, and it's like a poor neighborhood.
Yeah.
You take the average Yale student and the average, we'll say someone who's just struggling to get a job, make money, save money, whatever it is. Total different hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
And that's located in a quarter-mile radius.
Yeah. I mean, think of it even in that exact same scenario. You have the Yalie and you have the Uber driver,
Yeah.
right? And it's like we're kind of, and that it's interesting too because we're kind of creating a tiered, like a class system of those who consume and those who service, where it's like I need to get from here to here. Well, there's a whole fleet of people that probably collectively have less currency than the person that's doing the Uber, and they all exist specifically to serve. I mean, just look at Amazon Warehouse. You have all these people that are specifically there to cater to the people that are doing the ordering. I know that's going to go away with AI anyway.
Yeah.
But for now, and that's not nothing, right? That's not nothing. Like, these are an entire struggling group of people that are on the verge of having their one semblance of normalcy just removed, and that would be your job. And to bastardize a quote, but first they came for the cobblers, then they came for the baker, then they came for the whatever. And when there was nobody left for them to come for, they came for me. They came for us. I feel like that's how we need to be looking at our current economic market, because it's all about it, everything is a representation of something else. So we can understand economics as a representation of the day-to-day lived experience of your people within that economic system. And we can look at consumer spending as a reflection of what those consumers prioritize. In that same way, we can look at a culture or a societal structure and identify what those things are, what that priority is. Okay, and if we look at that through this economic structure, if the priority is wealth gain, capital gain, monetary spending, higher revenue, right? Then if we just get rid of the stuff that negatively impacts our end goal, and we pull in the stuff that positively impacts our end goal, and that's all that we care about are those two things, pushing and pulling. And then we play that out on a world stage. Obviously, it's more complicated than that.
It'd be nice if it wasn't.
Right, it would be nice if it wasn't. But the thing though is that is a close enough simulation of how those forces work that it's a valuable tool to extrapolate out things. And you can test that too by using these abstractions to make predictions and then see if those predictions come true. For example, not to get too political, but my prediction in last October was that he's gonna bring Elon onto the cabinet, and the two of them are gonna get really buddy, and he's gonna be individually as a private citizen bankrolling his corporate companies. Just yesterday, XAI bought out X for $45 billion.
What is XAI?
XAI is his government-funded AI program.
No, okay.
Grok 3 or whatever. That was
Baby Gronk? Baby Gronk 3?
Yeah. So that was given an evaluation of $80 billion or something. And then he was able to say, all right, cool. At that evaluation, I can sell $40 billion of XAI stock into liquid, use that liquid value to buy the X company. And so he's having a neutral third party give a cost evaluation to his XAI company using that private third party evaluation as leverage to go to the bank to get money.
This reminds me, I don't know where it started or the context for using it, but it's basically someone goes to a company or like a high-ranking hedge fund. It's like, you have to hire my son. He's the son-in-law to Bill Gates.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my God, if he's the son-in-law of Bill Gates, absolutely. And then he goes to Bill Gates. And he's like, you have to have your daughter marry my son because he is like running this hedge fund. It's like, well, if he's doing that,
That we have to.
like
Yeah.
on either side, there's no substance to it
Yep.
until you confirm the opposite.
That is a great. I really like that metaphor. Here's another one. It's a town square, okay? And you're gonna go to the town square.
Town square.
Town square. It's a circle. It's the town square.
The town circle.
It's the town. It's a town. Whatever. It's the center of the town. It's the town square, and you're gonna go to the mayor and you're gonna say, I want to have an open air market in the town square. And they're going to say, well, okay, that's fine, but you need to have people that want to do that. And you're like, all right, so if I have people that want to do that, you're saying that I can do this. They're like, yeah. All right, I'm going to go to the first person. And I'm going to say, hey, I'm opening up this new thing in the market. It's all access is invited. Would you be interested? And they're going to say, whoa, that's crazy. You got the ability to create an open air market. That's great. I'm like, yeah. You in? All right, I'm in. Okay, cool. I'm going to take you. I'm going to go to the next person. I'm going to say, hey, I'm having this open air market. Are you interested? I already have a couple prospective stalls, so we want to get you in here before you kind of have to be concerned about where you're going to put your stall. You're one of our top picks, one of our first picks. We want to give you priority choosing over the lots. Here's the lot diagram. Here's all this layout stuff. And you're just making it up as you go. You do that 5, 6, 7 times, 30, 40, 50, 60 times. You come back, and now you've got all these people rallying behind you, and your profit, your personal gain comes from the people, the stalls giving you a charge to be at the place. Okay. So then you take all of these people, each one under the impression that like this is something that you're doing. Then you go back to the guy at the mayor or whatever, and do the exact same thing. Hey, me and all these people, I got them to come together. Let's get this thing going. And he's like, well, okay. All of a sudden, you've just privately acquired a ton of wealth because now all these stalls are renting for you. And this entire organization is just out of nothing.
Sounds like the real estate right now.
Yeah, or like a pump and dump crypto scheme.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
Or really anything.
Yeah.
There's a lot of examples of that stuff.
Yeah.
But just because you brought that up, and I think it's hilarious. And I would say I don't want to shit on people who do this, but I'm going to. Oh my God, a meme cryptocurrency coins. Like, let me put my life savings into that. It's like, look, I feel bad for you, but
100
stupid
years,
is what stupid gets.
100 years ago, it was snake oil salesman.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then 50 years ago, well, I shouldn't say that. 200 years ago, it was snake oil. 100 years ago, we were selling people bridges and Eiffel Towers, and now we're just we're doing stock or we're doing crypto. And,
Yeah.
It's the.
I just feel bad. Like the most recent one I know of is the Haktua girl, which it's funny to bring it up on this podcast because I feel like 90% of podcasts have. I want to see like a meter on social media for how many times someone said Haktua.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's easy content just to be like, oh, this girl.
Yeah.
But I feel so bad for her and really anyone who gets involved in like meme coin rug pulling.
Sure.
Because this person randomly goes viral. They don't know what the hell's going on. 15 minutes of fame kind of situation. And they get followers and probably ads and deals and stuff like that. And then you have these vultures who are like, hey, because you're so popular right now, we have a way to turn your, millions of subscribers or whatever it is into millions of dollars. You just have to be the face of this new coin and you have to push it.
Yeah.
And they don't know what the hell they're doing. Like I think she worked in like a button factory or some shit.
We could remove any individual parts because I think you're talking to you're pointing towards like a higher pattern of people just taking advantage of other people.
Yeah, who like they get fame.
Yeah.
Not because like it'd be one thing to go up to an A-list actor or celebrity. It's like, hey, with your like notoriety, let's do this, that, and the other thing. And he's like, I have a fleet of people managing me, like producing for me.
Yep.
And they say, no, that's dumb. As opposed to one person who just got popular online.
Yeah.
And like their face carries some kind of value that they might not understand.
Right.
But other people is like, this is how we make money by
Yeah.
screwing her up.
In biology, or that's parasitism, right? And that's I think when you look at like evolution, what's it called? Evolutionary dynamics, or I forget. I'm not a scientist, but so one of the first things that show up when you do these kind of like life simulations is parasitism. Like the moment that you have one group that does well, and another group figures out how to piggyback off of the wellness of the first group, like that is the first dynamic system to evolve. Like,
Your sharks and your remora.
exactly. Like the sharks have to eat, so do the remora, but the remora are too small. So what does it do? They just hang around and eat the scraps. And each scrap is a feast to these little guys.
Yeah, it's actually a fantastic analogy because you just take like the natural power of these animals, like a shark, this massive, all muscle hunter.
Yep.
And then you have this tiny little fish that can't really hunt, but it can scavenge. And
Yep.
then it's the same thing with wealth.
Yeah.
You have these multi-billion-dollar companies, or whatever it is, and you got the people like, I want some
minnows.
scraps.
The minnows looking for a handout.
That's kind of like they have apps, or like you can follow like pages or whatever online where they track politicians or just other people of high wealth,
Yep.
their stock trading,
Oh,
because
yeah,
it's all
yeah.
public information.
Yeah. Well,
And
it
it's
should
like,
be.
oh, they bought and sold this one. I'm gonna do the
same.
same thing, and then
Yep.
it's the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get your scraps.
Yep. And to tangent this way
Sure,
into
sure.
a new direction, just because it's funny you said it that way, is because like you look at things like remote viewing or like the more esoteric, weird woo stuff. I was when I was at Monroe, they were talking about how as an experiment they gave, I want to say it was like $100, it might have been $500, and each day there was like a handful of stocks. There was like 75 stocks or something, and each day they did like a remote viewing of the market to see how that day would start and how that day would close, or something to that effect. And while none of them broke big, none of them had a loss either. And it was, I want to say the group was like 15 or 16 people. And so they were trading different, I think each person had independent or like different stocks. So it wasn't them all on the same portfolio kind of deal. It was each one kind of had their own things that they were working on.
Uh-huh.
So maybe that's how it was. It was the 75 stocks split into each of the 15 people. Then we just saw this cat, man. It's great. He's so cute.
I was playing God of War Ragnarok on my PC.
Yep.
So I would have the controller like this in my lap, and she would just sit across my wrists. So like,
Not a bad way to go.
I mean, I get kind of frustrated because I'm fighting something, and I can't like.
Yeah. You can't react. You gotta play like Dark Souls or like Elden Ring.
I'd be throwing her.
Whoops.
Whoops.
Sorry, kitty.
But since you brought up the Monroe thing, talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, okay.
I mean, you go at like.
Well, where do you want to?
I mean, tell them what it was.
Monroe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Monroe Institute.
Because I would say it's like a spiritual retreat almost.
Yeah, I could see how that could be an interpretation.
And actually, before we get into it, because you might have more context than me, what would be the difference between spiritualism and mysticism?
Framing. Like, I don't know if there's okay, I'll start like this. There's probably a philosopher or some type of person, academic, writer, whatever, who has examined this question at length. That is not me.
Gotcha.
I have not.
Well, like if you were to talk about it, what word would you use?
I would use.
And it doesn't have to be either of those two.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like if I wanted to really like really have this conversation, I would probably want to define my own words.
Yeah.
So like we could talk about mysticism, and so we could talk about mysticism as we are having kind of like a learning or an active interaction with something that isn't physical. Now, that might be something as simple as like a particular shade of color gives you a particular impression that you might not have otherwise had, that gives you some type of intuitive grasping, right? A wisdom that emerges, an aha moment. That is more what I would call mysticism. So, like having things like spirit totems or animal guides, right? And then spirituality is more of like the idea of life, living, dead kind of thing.
Like the spirit
Yeah, like
or the soul.
yeah, and even those are kind of funky too. So like you could think of if you think of like the soul as like, um, I was watching a video. It was a really great metaphor. I wish I could remember who said it, but they were talking about like spiritually dead versus like living within the spirit of God kind of deal, and their metaphor was like, we are built in God's image the same way a glove is built in the image of a hand, right? And so like without the hand to animate the glove, it is just a shell. But with the hand inside of it, it has a purpose. It has something that you can do. It has it's inherently useful to that animating spirit inside of it, so to speak. And in that same way, we can think of ourselves made in the image of God, the same way that the glove is made in the image of a hand, such that God can enter us and the spirit animates us in the same way that your hand animates. And so we're kind of talking about things in different ways, but does that kind of
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, most of the times when we talk, we come to the ultimate idea that language is very fickle.
yeah, yeah. So in that exact point, I would think that yeah, I would want to define my own terms.
That's what you should do. Just make up a new one.
Yeah, well, yeah, we could. We'd have to get like a whiteboard or something, and we could write it out. But like my forms I talk about, that's kind of how I've been using it. Is like,
Because those are actual, and you can explain to them, but those are actual quantifiable, like things, amounts, statistics,
right, yeah.
as opposed to like, oh, it's a feeling. I feel this. I feel that.
But that's the crazy thing is like, I feel like in my opinion, feelings are more real than anything else. Like, which isn't to say that they are necessarily real. We run into language again, the problem. But what I mean is like we can only experience the world through our senses. We feel our senses, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can even think of your brain as a sense. So your thoughts are a sense of self.
I will say, just to clarify for me,
Yeah.
and maybe other people who think similar to me, when you say feelings, I think emotions, but you mean actual, like, again,
Feel, like sensations.
Yeah, like English is failing me, but
Yeah.
like I'm feeling the cat as opposed to I'm feeling angry
But does the feeling the cat feel good?
to the cat, probably.
No, but like, do you derive a feeling of satisfaction from the physical action of petting the cat?
I suppose, yeah.
Well, that's an emotion.
She's so smooth and soft. Boop.
Boop.
But yeah, no, I get what you mean.
Yeah, like I mean feeling. So when I say feeling, I mean it in the context of like sensation. Like you've experienced the sensation of touch. You've experienced the sensation of emotion.
Yeah. Because that's like to kind of be wrong.
Okay.
That's the only true thing is like feelings because that's the way we observe things. So to us, it is the truth
Right.
because what else do we have besides our like not observing but our reaction to stimulus or the world around us?
Well, you can observe your reaction, and in that way separate yourself from your reaction, and in that way become more than the reaction that you're describing.
Right.
So, like it's not just we aren't. The way that I understand it myself is is kind of similar to like more of a library of an Akashic library, where
Oh, what?
Akashic, it's Akashic record. All right.
I'm not that smart.
Yes, you are. It's not about smart.
Top.
It's not about smart.
What is a
Akashic.
Akashic?
So think of it like, it's like a library that contains every possible book that could ever possibly be written, and every possible version of it.
Sounds like an SCP.
Kind of, yeah, yeah. Or think of it like an AI bot, where you have every single first possible letter, okay, and then you have every single possible combination of that first letter and the second letter, okay, and then the third, and so on and so forth, until you end up with every possible series of possible combinations of words emerging, if you will, into every possible book, of every possible variation. And it just keeps unfolding forever and ever and ever and ever.
I want that AI, and I want to name it Monkeys with Keyboards.
Well,
Put enough monkeys in a room with a bunch of keyboards, and eventually they'll make Shakespeare, or however it goes.
there was a study about that, and it would never make Shakespeare.
Damn it.
They're more prone to press certain combinations.
They're more prone to break the fucking thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that also doesn't help.
Is it chimps or monkeys? Very different.
Yeah.
Chimps might destroy everything. Well, they probably all might.
At a certain level, they're probably all going to just hit it. Like, I mean, you put a person in a room long enough without any food, water, shelter, or other people, he's going to break the damn thing too.
He's gonna try to eat it.
It's going to be tasty. We could eat those keyboards. So anyway, let's back up a little bit to you had asked me to talk about Mongo.
Yeah, that's how this podcast is gonna go. We're gonna we need an AI editor to make like a mapping board of like, here's the point they started, here's where they ended.
It's like
Each point in between
Yeah.
is like the consistent topics, and then there's just a bunch of branches off into nonsense.
it's like a yeah. It's like a tree graph or a mind map of all the different topics, like different timeline branchings collapsing
And
merging.
each branch is longer depending on how long we talk to it. So
Yeah,
there's like
yeah.
it almost looks like a like a
chandelier.
pine tree.
Yeah, that
Like
works
teeny
too.
tiny little ones and then really long ones.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll backtrack. So, and I mean this is more on you.
Yeah, well,
But-
you had asked about
So
Monroe.
you went on what is it, a week trip?
Yep. Well,
to
5 nights, 6 days.
Yeah, to an institution.
Yep.
And to me, it's a spiritual retreat, which is where we started with all
Yep.
these tangents. But
Yeah, I mean, it can be that. I mean, it's just like, if you look it up online, it'll just tell you that they're an institute where they study, like, spiritualism. But it's also like it's just a place to kind of do fun sound technology stuff, where it's like meditation and like wholesomeness and healthy practices, and it's like our modern age is full of noise, it's full of distractions and it's stress, right? Like our human biology is designed for like 150 groups, 150 person groups, where you go out and you sit all day long waiting for your deer to come in, and then you just chase him for 3 or 4 days and haul it all the way back.
and then break it down and use every tiny little bit of it.
And every single person in the tribe matters. Like if one person has an accident, that might be everybody in their entire village dead.
It's like a workforce.
It's like well, yeah,
Some of 'em.
kind of. But the point though is that
It's like kitchen workplaces where it's like,
yeah,
our
exactly.
sous chef is down.
No!
For context, we both worked in kitchens for a majority of our
Too long.
young adulthood,
long.
and we never took sick days. That wasn't an option. Because
Yeah.
if you didn't show up to work, you're fucked.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
everyone else is fucked.
Everyone else is fucked. And if you did show up, everyone else is sick. So what do you do? but to speak to that point, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Our society is not structured for people. It's structured for progress or corporate progress.
Things. It's not
Yeah.
structured for people. It's made for things.
Made for things. But there's a couple of tangents there we could go into about how like the inevitable conclusion of advanced technology is autonomous technology, and so then you can look at biological entities like wombs that eventually give birth to like more eternal electrical constructs. There's probably some segues in there about like low temperature plasma life forms and how we could probably create something like that in the laboratories or even observe it in our upper atmospheres, which is wild to think about. And that ties into the UFO topic a little bit. But to focus in on the Monroe thing, it's really just a place that teaches people how to be human the way that humans have always been.
Right.
And then you throw in some like New Age mysticism or like more like traditional teachings about, you know, non-duality and other different like Eastern cultures or religions. And all of that is wrapped up within the lens of applied physics, applied
Chemistry? Or
no,
biochemistry?
it's not. It's kind of. It's more like it's leveraging the electromagnetic frequencies and the biochemical energies of our body and using them in concert. Kind of like how, and we all know this, and we all know this intuitively. We just don't ever apply it. But like when you go to listen to a song that makes you a certain type of way, like emotionally. So like I have certain songs that if I want to feel certain things, I put it on because like if I'm at the gym and I want to boom, 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 hard hitting, right? Well, if I want to like meditate, you probably want something a lot
Same
calmer.
music. Use the,
yeah,
the,
boom, boom,
the
boom,
Doom soundtrack
yeah,
to
yeah,
meditate.
yeah. Heavy metal synthwave, baby, let's go. But you can, but then you can kind of like engineer audio waves to interact with your brain mush special ways. So like you have a concept of like, and you can look this up, binaural beats. So you have
Love those.
two different frequencies. Hi, Katie. Sounds coming in from two different ears, and then your brain hears the difference between the two, and then you get those two hemispheres to work in concert. So now you're both operating at once, and it becomes a more efficient system. There's less internal tension. You don't have as much opposite fields that are forcing upon each other. It's all more coherent, right?
Right. So, I mean, the thing that I liked, because we talked about it, like when you got back, I like to see, I guess, you know, like results.
Yeah.
Or sometimes people go out on a spiritual retreat to, you know, learn something about themselves. It's very open ended. Like, oh, I went soul searching. It's like,
Right.
well, what did you find your soul? I'm
Yeah.
like, well, maybe.
Maybe.
But with that, like, it's like, hey, here's a piece of paper of what we found and what we studied, and like,
Right. So well, the program that I was in was a little bit different than how they typically do it, because we were hooked up to EEGs during some of our meditations. And so they were able to basically monitor the brainwaves in real time. And then after each meditation, we had like a document that we would just fill out that captures the elements before they would disappear. Kind of like how you wake up in the morning and you like can kind of remember your dream, but until you write it down, like by the time you're out of your bedroom, it's gone.
yeah,
So we wanted to capture as much information as we could in a similar way, so that when we then look at the EEG data, we have more context for what we're looking at, and we can say something. So for me specifically, there's like one of the meditations where at a pretty recognizable timestamp, something that I experienced happened. And you can then go and look at the raw data, which we were provided, as well as the report, which they interpret. And we can say, you know, I recorded here a pretty significant effect. I don't know, what's a good one? I was swimming underwater with an alligator, and we were going down deeper and deeper and deeper. And then all of a sudden, we got so deep that we found ourselves amongst the stars, right? And, you know, you can look at that as a dream and say, well, that's a pretty cool dream, right? That's a pretty cool visualization. And yeah, it is. But you look at then you can look at the mind EEG thing, see what your actual brain activity is doing at that time. You're not dreaming. You're in a super, super, super high lucid state. Like your brain is in like the flow state of a super performing athlete. These are similar kinds of patterns that you see.
well, that's what I was going to ask, because it sounds, and you even equated it to dreaming,
Yeah.
but and I'm sure there's countless studies throughout the 100 years
Sure.
just about dreams, because it's always like, do they have meaning? What do they mean? Why do they happen? Because it's definitely similar to like having those meditative visions, if you will.
Yeah.
But like you said, there's the waking mind and the sleeping mind. The sleeping mind and a lot of dreams, it's not enough like concrete happenings. It's
Yeah.
a bunch of random, like, I made a sandwich with bologna, but then there was mustard in it. Like, what, not
Discontinuous, yeah.
because there's no conscious focus,
Right.
right? But if you're meditating, and I meditate from time to time, this is where it kind of splits, because I'm in the middle road of this, where I feel like you're on one separate path.
Sure.
Where it's like, does it have meaning, or is it the meaning that you give to it throughout the context of your person?
Right.
Because I'm sure some people will be like, nah, no, that means shit, or it's like you're imagining it, which, could have a standing. But the other one also, like, both paths
Yeah.
are valuable. Like, they both have their worth.
Yep. I mean, my okay, not on the microphone. Okay. My perspective on this is like I said before, everything is a representation of something else, and so our subconscious understands things at a symbolic level. Like if you want to speak to people, if you want to speak to people's core sense of self, you speak to them in stories, in narratives. The hero's journey has passed through 6,000 years because it is so. It's a meme. It's a mimetic. It sinks into your identity of self, and you relate to it. And so, in that way, things like dreams and things like meditation visions, or whatever you want to call it, are just as real as two people walking into a room and seeing different rooms, or two people seeing a car crash, and when they go and give their report to the police or whatever, they describe it differently, right? And again, this is something we all intuitively understand, but it's not so intuitive when applied.
Now this, the way my mind goes through that is, I'm big into like Eldritch stuff. I love Lovecraftian things.
Yep.
Because the themes are very much like, not Cthulhu, for example, but they all have crazy names. But some eldritch being that, is ancient and eternal, and it's beyond our comprehension.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of similar to like angels in the Bible. Maybe I'm less versed in that. Okay. Where it's like, there's this thing that is incomprehensible, but the human mind has to comprehend it somehow. So it filters, what it is either seeing or not seeing into something that it can comprehend.
Yeah.
So for example, like eldritch being comes down to Earth or is unearthed in the planet.
Sure.
And a lot of the times Lovecraftian, a person will see this thing and their mind will just shatter.
Yeah.
Because it can't comprehend it.
Yeah.
But other things is like, oh, it's a dog with like this, maw that sections off into four things, and there's that like otherworldly descriptions, because that is how the human mind can only process that thing.
Yeah.
So it's similar, like when you're meditating, and you talked about like spirit guides or spirit animals.
Yeah. Yep.
Where if we had, say, like DMT, we both have like a similar trip to some place.
Okay.
But what I see and you see is the same thing, but it's different in the way we process it.
It manifests to us differently.
Yeah. So like, say we went on the same, which I don't think is possible at all, but like you go on the same soul journey when you're meditating. Okay. And we're seeing the same, like, the example you used, like you're going underwater, you keep going until you see stars, or where like you see stars, but I see, I don't know, thistles.
Yeah, or like embers.
Yeah, where it's a similar imagery, but the way that point is conveyed
is different.
Well, no, the point is the same.
The point's the same. The way it's messaged
way you get
to
there.
you
Yes,
is different.
exactly.
Yeah, and that's I think that is yeah.
So if you think about it, like we and there's so many examples that I can't list right now, but humans are intrinsically similar. And I want to say spiritually or like via the soul.
Yeah.
So if you take away the material plane, if you will,
Sure.
and you're just this spirit, they're all on a similar wavelength in the spiritual level.
Okay.
But when it gets skewed is when it's physical. So like using that trip as an example, we both have the same point,
Right.
or whether it's thistles or stars, but because we're different physical beings,
Yeah.
we see those like symbols different, if that makes sense.
Let's see if this makes sense. To put what you just said a different way, it's like a crystal prism that has unfiltered light shining through it, and it comes out different hues because of the different,
Angles and chips.
the matrix angles or
formations.
imperfections. Your perspective, quote unquote, is subjecting itself to the pure information, and when it comes out to your side after it's been your interpretation of what that color is depend entirely on the purity, the quality, the whatever this crystal is. So if you in that language, this abstracted metaphor, yeah. So we could we could have the same experience, so to say, but the crystal through which we view that experience distorts it, kind of like rose tinted glasses when you think about like
Red flags.
exactly the metaphors exactly, yeah. And so but inside but that's kind of how I'm interpreting what you're saying, is like we can both go to the same trip, we both experience the same final message, but the language that's used to convey that message is person to person.
So to interpret your interpretation,
Yes.
which is also why I want to do this
Yeah.
on a podcast, because now I want other people to either
What the
comment
fuck are you
like,
saying?
"What are you talking about? What is this?"
Yeah.
But then there's
yeah.
going to be a select group of people who I feel like either like go with what you're saying and go with what I'm saying, even though it's the same thing. But
Yeah.
like the way you think and the way I interpret it, or vice versa,
Right.
that is the interesting thing. I'm sure with people in general, but like we've known each other so long that we can say nonsense
Yep.
to other people, but
Yeah.
like we know we're on the same wavelength.
And it's so useful. Like it's so useful to have that reality check, that grounding, you
Yeah.
know, like, which was another really interesting thing that I enjoyed about going to this Monroe place is all of a sudden I can have these conversations with people that understand what I'm saying, and it's not just like glazing over of the eyes.
Or just
Yeah.
smile and nod. What
Right.
the fuck are you saying?
Yeah. You're like, oh, it's really cool. I can see a raven landing on a branch and understand that to be a message of a coming storm tomorrow. You say that typically, you get looked at. You're like you're a crazy person, but you look at that through the language of like mysticism, and you're like, oh, you're a shaman. Okay, I get it
Yeah.
now. And we just don't have the lexicon. We don't have the Gestalt understanding of these terms anymore because
Well, because like you said earlier, it's been so like it's been pushed to the back burner.
Yeah.
Because we in this society we live in, we have so many other like different hierarchy of needs.
Right.
Why would I think spiritually? Why would I worry about like the deeper meaning, if you will, to certain things when I need to make money to
And to
eat?
tie this even deeper into Maslow's needs, we operate all the way up here because we presume down here is taken care of, but we eat garbage, right? And that's the bottom. So in that is I'm just speaking towards the effect that we might take something for granted as something that we need. We do need it. It is being met. Our need is being met, but the quality of the need being met is almost like your hierarchy is built on unstable foundations.
I think
But to tie that into what you were just talking about, it's like your spiritualism. Like our materialistic understanding of reality is an unstable foundation for that hierarchy of needs, kind of looking through that lens of like, yeah, spiritualism or whatever.
Right. I feel like nowadays, because you kind of outlined it very well, there's a hierarchy of needs, which is kind of a staple in, what do you say, psychology or philosophy, whatever it is, society.
Yeah. It's probably a sociological study.
I feel like you need that pyramid,
Yeah.
and then you need like percentages next to it.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is the base, food, sleep, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But like if you're at a 40%,
Yeah.
then that compromises everything above it.
Yeah.
A good example for me, where my mind just went, you hear about it all the time. You have like a 40-something-year-old, relatively healthy, good shape, good living person.
Has a heart attack.
Dies of a heart attack.
of a
Exactly.
heart attack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you might think, well, why? He was so stress.
Yeah.
Because stress comes in when you eat like shit, you sleep like shit.
Yep.
And that.
Yeah.
And I've experienced it. Like, granted, we're young-ish. But I experienced such a intense stress in my youth where I was having heart issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because stress kills.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because you think, oh, it's the substance I put in my bodies, or it's how you take care of yourself physically.
Yeah.
Stress will fucking
Doesn't matter.
erode.
All that is laid bare, but before.
So if you don't have that, because that is the hierarchy.
Yeah.
It's there because it's proven that bottom layer
Yep.
is essential to everything else.
Exercise too, for that matter. Like, think about it this way: we have seconds until you're immediately aware that you have to breathe to survive. Right? Seconds. Right? Okay. You have hours until you're immediately aware you need water to survive. Okay. You have days until you're immediately aware that you need food to survive. But what about fitness? What about the quality of your food? What about stress? Right? How long does it take for you to realize that you need to not be stressed to survive? That's probably
I'm
measured
stressing
on,
about stressing.
it's probably measured on years, right?
Yeah.
And so we don't have, like, our minds aren't made for that kind of thinking. That's why we use heuristic, helpful tools like religious practices, right? Like, we can use something like a religious practice to encode all of what we're talking about here with our needs all the way up. And it's packaged in like a holistic package, so that we can kind of like engineer a healthy society. And that's not to say that we can't take a religious and artificially engineer it so that it becomes not so much a tool as a crutch, or in some cases a prison, but like we can kind of coordinate and orchestrate how we understand our societal structures based on how we understand our interpersonal relations and individual needs. And then we can take that whole thing and package it in a system and then say, all right, this is how we're going to build civilizations. We're going to take care of all the individual needs. We're going to take care of, as you get older, you're going to have certain requirements that you don't have. If you're going to have younger, you have requirements. You can phase those out. You have to have certain calorie intakes. You have food. You have sleeps. You have cycles. You have like interpersonal requirements. You have family needs. You have hopes, dreams, and then we kind of like we rebuild that hierarchy of needs we've been talking about. And and obviously this is something like a utopia or like an idealized form of society, and I get that. But if we restructure this whole conversation, actually, around deep space travel, where we have to have something like a Fallout era kind of thing, where like you're gonna live in a vault,
Like a commune.
yeah, you're gonna live in a vault. You're gonna live on a spaceship. You can't leave, right? It's a closed system. Okay, how many people can we have before that system breaks down? It's about 150. So
How do we divide those 150 to achieve all the tasks that are necessary?
yeah, immediately meaningful and individually significant tasks. So it's not just busy work. It's like your last name is Taylor. You make the clothes. Your last name is Butcher. You cut the food. Your last name is Smith.
Hey.
You make the tools, and when we reorient our perceptions of what a society should be, we can look at it in the same way that we look at something like an ant farm, or not an ant farm, like an ant colony, or like a bee colony, or a swarm of fish, or a grove of trees, or an ecosystem of like microcelia.
Now, very quickly,
Yeah.
I'm glad we got to this point because we were talking about it beforehand, where this is a system that you see and it's like this would work,
Right.
like catered to humans, but because we're human beings, we are so prone to just not do that.
Yeah.
Because like I think the
Yeah.
big thing,
The
like you're
ego.
saying, the hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
That hierarchy gets thrown in the trash when you introduce the hierarchy of wants. Because
Yeah.
and like people struggle with that now.
Yeah.
Maybe this comes back to consumerism, where there are entire subsects of careers
Yeah.
where it's like I'm like a financial coach.
Mm-hmm.
You are struggling. You can't afford food. Like you can't afford your
Pay me to
needs,
teach
but
you how to
you
do it
wanted to
better.
go to Disney World,
Yeah.
and you spent
Oh.
$2,000 on that because you wanted to.
That's not where I thought this was going. That's interesting too. Yeah. Well, I think that's the culture. Like, I think that's a cultural thing.
Oh no, definitely. Well, and that's why I say either consumerism, or capitalism, because
Yeah.
I feel like American culture is a buying, consuming culture.
It's individual. I would imagine it's less so much consumer. It's more individualism. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, because if we cared about, so okay, if you're a struggling family that cared about family units as opposed to individuals, then the members of your community, without you even needing to ask, without you even thinking about asking, will just take care of you.
Yes, and
Which
there
we
are
just don't have that here.
well, there's definitely examples of that here, but those are like
Yeah,
I wanted to say subcultures, but that sounds mean.
they're isolated pockets,
Take like
and they're not typical.
Amish or
Sure.
Mennonites.
Okay.
Just as a random example, I don't know if it's true or not,
Mennonite.
but like this secluded culture was like, we don't identify with, the culture we're surrounded.
The world.
Like, maybe it's not Amish, but to use them as an example, like you have the men work and the women take care of the house, blah, 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 blah. Borderline traditionalism.
Build a
But
barn in a day.
it's basically like a secluded neighborhood, if you will, like a
Sure.
community.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, me and the boys are going to go harvest or
yeah.
build a shed because they love building sheds.
It's a modern day tribe.
They love it. They love
It's the
building.
greatest shed. Greatest shed builders.
And then it's not even like, hey, can you take care of my kid today? It's, the kids are all going to school and then we bring them home.
they just show up and do it.
Yeah, which nowadays this gets bastardized by fucking incels who are like, the woman belongs in the kitchen. Where it's like, just because that's how it was and that's how it had worked in the past,
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it is any one gender's role to do one thing or the other.
Right.
But the idea is structural,
Mm-hmm.
where if it is a community and everyone pitches in without having a second thought or being told to do so,
Yep.
then it will flow naturally and positively.
Right.
But in this culture now, like you said, it is individualism, where I see, and it enrages me to see families where this, young 20-something wants a kid just because they want a kid, whether it's through
For whatever
just like
reason. Doesn't
biochemical
matter.
reasons.
Right.
And they have the kid,
Just
and then it's almost like,
well,
well, this is my toy, and I got tired of it, and now
exactly.
what are you going to do? You're going to abandon the kid? Or
well, exactly.
you have a kid with a dad didn't want the kid, dad disappears.
Yeah.
That is so detrimental.
Yeah.
Because as a species,
Mm-hmm.
and ingrained in society throughout our entire existence, those things like having two parents or having a whole family that pitches in, that is what develops
Yeah.
a, all-rounded good human being.
Yeah.
But
And that's
me, I don't want to be a mom.
yeah. I don't know. It's complicated.
Oh, it's very complicated.
Like, because especially on this topic specifically, like on one hand, we want to say, listen, obviously you don't you should be able to do what you want to do, obviously. But also, it's like, okay, we were biologically engineered over millions of years to cater to achieve specific things for the continuation of our species. We don't live in that world anymore, but those biological markers are still there, right? Because evolutionarily speaking, yesterday we were hunter-gatherers, right? And yesterday we were fighting off things like big-toothed tigers or like ground sloths, you know? Yeah.
Ground sloths the size of a fucking grizzly bear.
Exactly. Well, dude, bigger, like 2 or 3 times as big, but like 10 feet tall. And so like we don't live in that society anymore. But when we hear like deep subvocal sounds from our creaking buildings,
Fear.
right? And that's because we have a biological response to certain sounds. Because if you're hearing a tiger in the grasses and it growls with subvocal communication from one tiger to the other,
You need that fight or flight to kick in ASAP.
And if you're a bunch of women in a group picking flowers, you want to get up, huddle together, backs around a circle, put the kids in the center of the circle, and you want to make sure that you see what's coming.
An example that comes to mind is cute things.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, their parents would kill them.
Exactly, because that
Yeah,
is a
exactly.
natural, as horrible as it is,
Yeah.
that is a natural thing for mothers to eat some of the kids.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you're weak, you're fucked. I'm hungry because I got to take care of your brothers and sisters, so down you
And
go.
it isn't that these are like active considerations. These are just biological things that happen.
Because that is surviving.
Yeah.
Like, that's like ingrained
It's
when you are
machinery.
become an animal, when you
Right.
become not even prey or predator,
Yeah.
just to live.
Yeah.
But because, granted, we don't have litters of kids, we have one at a time.
Well,
Well, more or less.
Yeah.
Some people get fucked and
ahead,
have
go ahead.
4 at a time.
Go ahead. Yeah.
But it's like, oh, this baby's so cute. Even though some of them look like a potato.
Yeah.
You are going to protect that small, fragile thing.
Yep.
And the cherry on top is it's adorable, so you want to coddle it.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure it's happy.
Yep.
And same thing you were talking about, like tonal stuff. High-pitched whining. Even, and I don't know if that serves a purpose interspecial, if that's a word.
I think yes.
But it's the same thing. Like, if you're walking around and you hear like a whining,
Yeah.
just similar to any animal when
Concern.
it whines. Yeah, concern what's going on. It's not fight or flight because that wouldn't make sense in that situation.
It's alarm.
Yes.
It's alert.
It's caution. It's where is this thing?
Yeah. What's also interesting too, while we're talking about this whole child rearing thing, you might have noticed. You may have noticed over the course of your life, but this is something that is interestingly true by itself. When when parents have children, the mother's mom, so the grandmother to the newborn, is biologically programmed to see that child, to see the father's face in the child, because the mother wants to reassure the father that that child is the father's, and the way that they do that is through commenting on the appearances. Oh, you look
He's got
just
your
like
eyes.
exactly, yeah. And so it's funny because these are like second, third, fourth order removed things that are like tucked away in our psyche that we just don't think about.
Yeah. And I said it earlier today, the human mind is so crazy on how complex it is and how simple it is.
Yeah, like it's just, it is an extremely complicated meat clump. It's a wrinkly meatball that is able to get in tune or in touch with whatever consciousness is.
It's like the scientific approach with the variables. You have
yeah.
like constant variables where that is a baseline for all humans, unless you have some kind of, like if you're a diagnosed sociopath where there's just some disconnect with emotions.
Atypical
Yeah.
neurology.
With the typical person, there are constants that like rear their heads throughout individual human experiences.
Sure.
And then there are different variables, like what is it, dependent and independent variables that affect you throughout life.
Yeah. like individual experiences versus a collective experience.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's tying it back to an earlier point we were making. That is what makes you unique, is those dependent and independent variables. The way you take it in
Yeah.
and the way you either process it or don't process it or are affected by it.
The imperfections in the prism of that's casting the shadow, the coloration of the light.
Exactly. And to relate this to Arcane season 2,
Okay, I haven't seen it, but okay.
spoilers.
Spoilers.
And if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
So at the end, basically someone ascends to godhood.
Okay.
And his idea is to basically assimilate all intelligent life
The Borg.
into one being.
Sure.
Because his goal, Victor, his goal is to basically get rid of war.
Spoilers, he just told you.
Spoilers.
He wants to
His
get rid of
idea
war.
is to get rid of discourse
Yeah.
and hatred and bigotry and this, that, the other thing. But then his partner was like, but that's what makes you you, is the
Yeah.
imperfections and your, the chip on your shoulder and you're different in like views. That's what makes the world.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if we were all the same person, how fucking dull would that be?
Yeah, it's like this actually comes up a lot in like spiritual mystic traditions. Like the whole how do I put this? So okay, let me back up a bit. I think of this kind of in the way of like a sound wave, where you have one wave pattern that encodes all the information that we interpret as sound. So like, it's not how to put so like a harmony that is really unpleasant is only unpleasant because you haven't heard the second half of it that comes immediately afterwards. And so we it's the interference between the observer and the observed that gives rise to this to the creation of the moment. Because otherwise there's just nothing. Like you can't, if there's no observer, then nothing is the observed, and if there's no observed, then you can't be the observer. Which is weird because like nothing is like you could, I guess, observe nothing, but if you observe nothing, you observe everything, and in that sense, there's like two great truths, where it's like you can have nothing, but from nothing comes everything, and you can have nothing, but or you can have everything, but with everything comes nothing. So, right?
I mean, I get it.
Because you're like, I don't like that at all. But it ties right back, where it's like we think of ourselves as thinking inside of the box. But if you just throw mirrors on each surface facing inwards, your box now is infinity. And it's like, yeah, but how does that help me in my day-to-day life? Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, that's a sad thing, because I think there's definitely an evolution of human beings, not physically, but more like socially and intellectually, I guess.
Okay.
But we are hitting way too many bumps in the road to continue that evolution, because we're so concerned with things that they matter, obviously. But if you're looking at like the intellectual progression of what it means to be a human, a very higher thinking mammal.
Yeah.
But because we're so concerned
We're so concerned with
with
nonsense. How's the
eating
car
or
on the ice?
politics
Yeah.
or the world around us, and it's not taking away those things. Like, for example, I get stressed seeing horrible cataclysmic events destroy people's lives and killing people by the thousands.
Totally natural response. Yeah.
But like, what good does that do?
Right.
Because, and actually this ties back, we're primed for a group of 150 people.
Yeah.
Because you can directly affect the lives of those 150 people because they're close to you.
Sure.
But like, what was it yesterday? That crazy earthquake in Thailand.
Yep.
Immediately I'm like, oh my God, that's so horrible, those poor people. But I have no control because I can't, go to them and help them start, searching for survivors.
Right.
Because those aren't my people. And
You don't live there. They're too far. You're too far removed from the situation.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I feel like, as far as progress socially and politically and stuff like that. That's what makes these issues so difficult because, especially in America, it's so fucking big.
Yeah.
If there's a protest going on in Utah for something I care about, I can't just drop everything and fly to Utah. I
Right.
could,
But
I'm not fucking gonna.
yeah, yeah. And I think we're probably wrapping
Yeah.
pretty soon. But just one last thing to what you were just saying.
Yep.
I agree, of course, with that, but at the same time,
How dare you?
how
How dare you?
No, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, we can't necessarily help immediately. We can help. We can in our own ways or whatever. We can. That's a different conversation, a different direction of than where I'm going. The where I'm going is, we can look at it as a natural event that happened. Okay, so that there's probably a lead up. We just weren't aware of it. Okay, so we have some more context so that we can then project out and look at when the next earthquake will come. And so, for example, when that earthquake happened, roughly at the same time, we got smacked with a pretty big solar flare, or not solar flare, like a high density plasma burst or some I don't know, some
Sure.
crap. The sun burped. Okay,
And
the sun burped.
we felt it.
we smelt the sun's burp, and we shivered, and that shivering was the earthquake,
Okay.
so to speak. Really, it's a
Is that actually what happened? That's why the earthquake?
we're a closed energetic system. We came in contact with a ton of energy that gets absorbed into the system. That energy has to go somewhere. When it's absorbed, things expand. When it expands, pressure dynamics change. When they change, faults slip, and
Tectonic
earthquakes.
plates and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because it's just pressure. Like, it's just fluid dynamics at the end of the day.
I want to talk to kids and see if they still know how earthquakes are made. Because I know we touched on it in school, but
We've got magma, and then the mantle.
well, I'm thinking the plates,
They go
when
boom,
they move.
and some go boom, and the other goes like this, and then other ones they go like that, and the other ones go like that,
This is the whole pretense for the show, Are You Smarter Than a
and
Fifth
go
Grader?
that, like this sometimes.
And that's how mountains come, because the plates.
How do the mountains do?
Really quick, because I just think it's funny, because we're talking about this topic. Like the whole being active in issues.
Yep.
Last month there was like a blackout for buying things.
Okay.
I think it was to basically like protest big corporations.
Sure.
Because it's like, hey, we're the consumers. If we don't buy your shit, like, you'll fall apart.
Sure.
So it was like a blackout day for buying stuff.
Yeah.
And I would have done it. Yeah. I didn't know until the end of the day.
I just found out about it now.
Exactly. Like, that's the issue. It's like, I can't help if you don't tell me. You people are so far away.
Yeah. Well, welcome, I guess.
Yeah. Hey.
Be
We don't know what the fuck we're doing,
Yeah.
but we just like to
nobody else does either.
talk
It's good.
random shit. So I don't know. Leave your criticisms in the comments, and because that's the big thing. That's why I love talking. It's like, I love being wrong. I really do. I hold on to, like, there's so many moments in my life where I'm like, I said something stupid and someone corrected me.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for those.
Right. Well, I'll put it this way. Because I agree. It's like, oh wow, did I just lose what I was gonna say?
Well, we are near the end.
I guess so.
Well, it being proven wrong or told you wrong and
May I back up
learning
further?
stuff.
Go further back.
Yeah,
We're so
blackout
grateful
day.
For the Blackness Day.
I'm grateful. Oh yeah, there's moments in my life where I remember those times where I was wrong,
right.
because then I can
You have that
figure out
opportunity to
how I'm
learn.
wrong. Like that's the issue with people like hatred and stuff. It's ignorance.
Yeah,
Where like, and you have to be open to being ignorant.
I remembered. Go ahead. Well, what I was just gonna say, because I think it kind of ties back into that. Is like, I think if we treat this as like, there's a saying that I thought was really funny, and it was like, oh my gosh, I feel so embarrassed. Like, I've been living this whole time without realizing that other people wear masks in public, and I've been walking around this whole time with my real face on. It's like, I want this to be a place that we, everybody can come in and just be human. Take off the faces that we have to be in social construct. Like, at the end of the day, we're just animals. We eat, we shit, we fart, we fight, we fuck. It's like, we're here to have a human experience. Like, let's have a human experience and take our faces off for a moment and just be raw. And
It's Like
especially in a polarized place.
exactly, and like
Especially in here at this time in this place.
and we've always been, not hostile to people who have different views, because as soon as you factor in hostility,
Yeah.
then the mask is going to come up.
You have to.
Because I mean, I've always been
It's
pretty
the
open,
defensive.
but even sometimes I'm like, I don't want to say what I'm thinking.
Right.
But I guess it kind of is like it's a judgment-free zone. You're going to get judged,
Yeah.
but not harshly.
Well, you'll get judged in the same way that you have constructive criticism.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's like if your ideas don't have the merit to be constructively criticized, like if you're not comfortable with that, you really probably want to re-examine the things that you care about.
Yeah, that's why I think it's a crime to see these fucking shit-eating, grinned, like professional debaters
Yeah.
go to. And I'm sure I could bring up a example, but I don't
We
know
don't
their
need
names.
to name names.
But they go to college campuses with kids who are just struggling with
Yeah.
like studying for a test or
Yeah.
they're dating, whatever the fuck it is, and they're like, hey, how about this crazy issue? And then they
5
just
seconds or less.
they keep annoying
What are you
this
doing?
stressed out
Child.
college student,
Yeah.
and they're like, ah, fuck you, man, you're a bigot. It's like, haha, I win, ha. No, that's a crime. It should be.
I mean, it's not a crime in like
It's not
the
a
legal sense.
Yeah,
How about this?
but
it's definitely
it's an intellectual crime
It's a little sussy baka.
because that's not
Useful.
progressive.
It's not helpful.
That's just you like I win. Like the
getting up
one
to your-
guy who was like, do you know the definition of a fetus? Some shit. He was just being a dickhead.
What's the definition of a fetus? It's a baby.
And it's like, oh, see, I was right. Like that pompous bullshit. I hate it. So like, this is a space where, even if I get ripped apart in the comments,
Yeah.
I'll be like, well, good. That's good. That's like, I've always been a middle of the road person because I love listening to both sides fight with each other. So then I can
Well, because
take information from both sides.
it's like averages, right? Like it's an average. Like you have something that's so somebody from one opinion has something that's right. Somebody from another opinion has something that's right. If you kind of like average out the two, you're probably somewhere that's pretty close.
Yeah.
And like, and so let's talk about it. And let's really cut to the chase because, I really do believe that we all care about improving the lives of the people that we care about. Now, for some people, that just might be themselves.
Yeah.
They care about themselves, and that's okay because they're people too. But for other people, they'll care about themselves, their families, their friends, and that's okay. And then you'll have other people who care about all of humanity like that. And like, they don't differentiate between their brother or the stranger on the other side of the world. Like, if you had to pick who to save, they'd struggle because they'd want to save both.
Yeah.
And it's like they would struggle because they'd want to save both. And that's really difficult for some people to wrap their minds around. But like, I think that's probably where we have to go
Yeah.
because the framing of the concept of other is an illusion. And it's not any more real than, your concept of right and wrong.
Yeah.
So if you feel comfortable having a moral right and a moral wrong, you should feel comfortable extending your grace to all of humanity.
Yeah.
Because they fucking need it.
I think, pride comes before the fall. Where like, if you're so full of pride that you can't bear to be perceived as wrong,
Right.
you're doomed to
And if you can't
stagnation.
if you can't find God in a pile of shit, then you don't understand what God is.
Where is he?
He's not here. But yeah.
But yeah.
On that note,
Yeah, I think we'll call it.
thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, destroy us in the comments, please.
Keep on keeping on.
And we're very qualified. We're not at all. I didn't even get a college degree.
We're sitting on chairs talking to
Look,
you.
we
wherever
bought the
you are.
microphones. We can say what we want.
Well, I've got power on, damn it. All right. Bye.
But bye.
Bye-bye.